This pre-application information session is for the FY2021 grants to tribal governments to exercise special domestic violence criminal jurisdiction, targeted support for exercising tribe solicitation, commonly referred to as a tribal jurisdiction targeted solicitation. This solicitation was posted on January 12th, 2021. It is recommended that you have the solicitation with you as you view this pre-application information session. The most important thing you can do before applying is read the solicitation in its entirety. You can find the solicitation along with other valuable resources on OVW's webpage. Application submissions in response to this solicitation will be done in a new two-step process. Applicants will submit the SF424 and the SFLLL in grants.gov and submit a full application in the new Justice Grant system, referred to as Just Grants. Applicants must submit the SF424 and the SFLLL in grants.gov by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, March 26, 2021. The full application package is due in Just Grants by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, March 30th, 2021. Minimally, you should watch the application submission training video and download the application submission job aid from the Just Grants website to familiarize yourself with the new application process. Additionally, DOJ is hosting a series of webinars on the Just Grants application submission process. Attendance at each webinar is limited to 350 participants, but the webinars will be recorded and posted to the Just Grants website. Ballot 2013 restored tribal criminal jurisdiction over non-Indians that commit certain crimes within the Indian country of participating tribes. Authorized by the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968 as amended, the Tribal Jurisdiction Program was established in 2016 to support tribes in planning for and exercising SDVCJ. The program provides monetary and technical assistance support and requires collaboration and coordinated involvement of the tribal criminal justice system. For FY 2021, OVW is issuing two separate solicitations under this program. The first is the standard tribal jurisdiction solicitation, which will support tribes that have not yet begun exercising SDVCJ and tribes that are currently exercising SDVCJ but are seeking funding to plan and complete broad-scale system improvements to strengthen the exercise of SDVCJ. For example, code development or substantial revisions, court rules and procedures development, system capacity development to improve the handling of cases, or other large-scale projects. You can find that solicitation on the OVW website, along with a recorded pre-application information webinar. The second is this solicitation, through which OVW is targeting support to tribes that are currently exercising SDVCJ and are only seeking funding for discrete costs associated with exercising the jurisdiction, such as incarceration costs and medical care for non-Indian SDVCJ defendants, indigent defense counsel costs, costs associated with impaneling a jury for an SDVCJ trial, batter's intervention or other post-conviction programming costs, and similar expenses. For the solicitation, funds under this targeted solicitation may be used to defray costs resulting from a tribe's exercise of SDVCJ, including costs associated with law enforcement, prosecution, trial and appellate courts, probation systems, detention and correction facilities, alternative rehabilitation, culturally appropriate assistance for victims and their families, providing defense counsel to indigent criminal defendants, and impaneling juries, including leadership and staff training and project evaluation. OVW does not fund activities that jeopardize victim safety, that deter or prevent physical or emotional healing for victims, or that allow offenders to escape responsibility for their actions. Applications that propose any such activities may receive a deduction in points during the review process or may be eliminated from consideration entirely. Information on activities that compromise victim safety and recovery or that undermine offender accountability may be found in the Solicitation Companion Guide. Please take the time to review the full list in the Solicitation Companion Guide on the OVW website so that you are not including any of these activities in your proposal or your project should it be funded. Out of scope activities include research projects. However, you can include up to 1% of the total proposal budget to support internal project evaluation costs. Also out of scope of this program is prosecuting cases of sexual assault that do not involve spouses, intimate partners, or dating partners, and prosecuting cases that do not involve domestic violence, dating violence, and/or violations of a protection order. You will notice that both of these are prefaced with absent a change in applicable law. Should the law change, OVW will reevaluate the out-of-scope activities for this grant program. Also, developing or substantially revising codes, court rules, procedures, or other activities focused on effecting system changes or improvements are out of scope for this particular solicitation. Tribes seeking funding for these types of activities should apply under the standard OVW grants to tribal governments to exercise special domestic violence criminal jurisdiction solicitation, as previously mentioned. Some activities may be allowable, but will require prior approval. Unlike the majority of OVW programs, projects funded by this program with prior approval can include some minor renovations in their budgets. All awards will be made as grants, and there is no match required. OVW has the discretion to award grants for greater or lesser amounts than requested and to negotiate the scope of work and budget with applicants prior to awarding a grant. Also, OVW has the discretion to make awards for greater or lesser lengths of time and will negotiate any project activity modifications needed as a result of changes to the estimated award period if necessary. OVW estimates that it will make 10 awards for an estimated $3.4 million, inclusive of tribal jurisdiction awards made through the standard tribal jurisdiction solicitation and this new targeted solicitation. Eligibility for this targeted solicitation is limited to Indian tribal governments that have jurisdiction over Indian country and are currently exercising SDVCJ. Through this solicitation, OVW will accept applications from new applicants, which is defined as tribes that have never received funding under the Tribal Jurisdiction Program, and tribes that received funding under this program in FY 2016. OVW will also accept applications from continuation applicants. Continuation applicants are current Tribal Jurisdiction Program grantees that received new 36-month awards in either FY 2017 or FY 2018 and otherwise meet the requirements of this targeted solicitation. Current grantees that have 50% or more of funds remaining in the award as of March 31st, 2021 may not be considered for funding or may receive a reduced award amount if selected for FY21 funding. Continuation funding is not guaranteed. Current grantees that are currently exercising the jurisdiction and are only seeking funding for discrete costs associated with exercising SDVCJ may choose to apply under this solicitation or the standard solicitation I mentioned earlier. The program requirements for this targeted solicitation are minimal. All grantees must participate in OVW-sponsored training and technical assistance, including the Intertribal Technical Assistance Working Group on SDVCJ, more commonly referred to as ITWIC. The ITWIC is a group of tribal practitioners working toward or currently exercising SDVCJ within their tribal justice systems. The ITWIC meets semi-annually to exchange views and best practices for implementing and exercising SDVCJ. Also, should OVW conduct a program assessment or evaluation of this program, recipients may be expected to participate. It is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that a complete application is submitted by the deadline. Applicants should anticipate that failure to submit an application that contains all of the application components will negatively affect the review of the application and may result in the application not being considered for funding. OVW may not contact applicants for missing items. Some application documents will be automatically generated as a web-based form during the online application processes. Those documents appear on this slide in blue. The documents that appear in purple are pre-populated web-based forms that utilize data previously entered by the applicant. Prior to submitting the application, you should carefully review this data for accuracy. The documents appearing in orange are prepared outside of the online system and then uploaded to the application in Just Grants. The next few slides, we will walk through the application components in the order they appear in the solicitation. The first step will be in grants.gov. Here you will complete the web-based SF424 and Disclosure of Lobbying Activities, or SF FYLLL forms. Both are generated when the application is initiated. Just a couple key points for these. First, the amount entered in the estimated funding box must match the amount of federal funding requested in the budget section of the application later on. Also, when you are identifying the authorized representative, this person must be an individual that has the authority to accept grant awards on behalf of the tribe. Some tribes' laws and policies limit this authority to only the elected chief executive officer of the governing body of the tribe, while other tribes have this authority vested in a staff position, such as the chief financial officer. Also, make sure whomever you put as the authorized representative has the legal authority under your tribal organizational structure to accept the award if one is made. The grants.gov SF 424 and disclosure of lobbying activities must be submitted no later than Friday, March 26, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. To be clear, there will be a submit button in grants.gov for these two web-based forms that applicants must select to initiate the application in Just Grants. After submitting these two forms in grants.gov, the applicant will receive an email notification to complete the rest of the application over in Just Grants. The communication between grants.gov, Just Grants, and the applicant is not immediate. It can take 24 hours or more for Just Grants to communicate to Just Grants, so applicants should not expect an immediate email in their inbox. If the applicant is a new user in Just Grants, the email will include instructions on how to register with Just Grants. To continue with the application process, you will follow the instructions in the email and log into Just Grants. The Just Grants 424 and General Agency Information web forms will be pre-populated based on the information you entered in grants.gov. You will need to confirm the information that transferred over from grants.gov is accurate prior to proceeding through the remainder of the application. The proposal abstract is worth up to 5 points of the total application score. Formerly, this was a separate attachment that was added to the application. Now that we're in Just Grants, the abstract is entered into a text field within the web-based application. There is template language for the abstract provided in the solicitation. Simply replace the text between the carets with your information, then copy-paste into the text field in the Just Grants, and that piece is done. Before we get into the meat of the proposal, a few tips. All documents that will be uploaded must be in Microsoft Word, PDF, or text document format. Use a descriptive file name when you are saving the document, such as narrative_xyztribe.pdf. Please do not combine multiple application components into one file. For example, you wouldn't combine the narrative, the pre-award risk assessment, and the exercising SDVCJ certification into one attachment because they may be uploaded into different sections during the Just Grants application process. Finally, pay attention to the formatting and technical requirements as described in the solicitation. Failure to do so can result in points being deducted from your application score and could be the difference between receiving funding and not. Any tables or charts included in the application do not have to be double-spaced or 12-point font. However, you must make sure that the font size is not so small it is illegible for the peer reviewers. The proposal narrative is worth 80 points. The narrative should be no more than 15 pages total. Peer reviewers will not read past this page limit. Use the headers and section titles provided in the solicitation. Respond to each item in the section it appears, even if you feel like you have answered the same question elsewhere in the proposal. Address each of the items listed. If something does not apply, or you do not have the data requested, just state that and provide an explanation. Don't just skip it. When discussing the extent of the problem to be addressed, use local data and anecdotal evidence when available. The peer reviewers are subject matter experts and are very familiar with what the national statistics say about domestic violence in tribal communities. What they don't know is what's happening in your community. Tell your story, paint your picture. Now, we'll walk through each piece of the proposal narrative. The purpose of the proposal section is worth 35 points. This is where you will describe your community and briefly discuss the tribe's exercise of SDVCJ to date. Responses for each of the elements touched by the tribe's exercise of SDVCJ could be as short as one sentence. Basically, just show the tribe's exercise of SDVCJ is consistent with the requirements of the Indian Civil Rights Act as amended. Then, provide a list of needs that will be addressed through this proposal to enable the continued exercise of SDVCJ, as well as some brief data points. The data is only requested to get a sense of the current or recent SDVCJ caseload. Tribes with lower numbers of SDVCJ cases will not be eliminated, and tribes with higher numbers of cases will not receive preference based solely on this data. This section will only be scored based upon the completeness of the responses. The What Will Be Done section is worth 35 points. This is the meat of the proposal. A table or chart format to present the goals, objectives, and activities is acceptable. The project goals and objectives must be easily linked to one or more of the needs identified in the previous section, and participation in the AWIC and OVW TTA must be included as an activity. The Who Will Implement section is worth 10 points. In this section, you will demonstrate capacity and expertise of key individuals involved in the proposal. Identify the individuals by name, job title, and role in the project. If available, attach job descriptions for any positions that will be created by or paid for with grant funds. This includes regular, contract, and consultant positions. Job descriptions should be combined into one file, uploaded as a supporting attachment, and will not be counted toward the 15-page total for the project narrative. The budget worksheet and budget narrative is worth 15 points. It will be submitted as a web-based form in JustGrants. It is not a separate attachment, and applicants should not upload a separate budget document. The line item description, the cost calculations, and narrative will be entered into the budget form within JustGrants. Applicants can budget up to $200,000 for the entire 24 months, not per year. The budget must include $10,000 in the travel category for OVW TTA. That's $10,000 for the entire 24 months, not per year. Applicants should include funds or describe other resources available to ensure accessibility to grant-funded services for individuals with disabilities, deaf or hard of hearing individuals, and persons with limited English proficiency. The next couple of slides, we're going to focus on aspects of your application that relate to the documents that our financial team, the Grants Financial Management Division, GFMD, reviews. More specifically, we'll discuss some items that GFMD has identified from prior year applications that could help with expediting the review process. So for today, we're going to highlight certain aspects of the pre-award risk assessment and provide you a link to a detailed webinar on how to develop the budget that will be included in your application. The first things we'll highlight is the items identified in a data requested with application sheet, which is completed by all applicants, specifically the single audit response. OVW requests all applicants provide a statement as to whether they have expended $750,000 or more in federal funds during their last fiscal year. If they have, then they indicate that and also specify the end date of their last fiscal year. However, GFMD is finding that applicants do not always include this information and leave out whether or not they have met the threshold, or the end date of the last fiscal year is not included. Please ensure this question is answered in its entirety on the data requested with application sheet. The next item we'd like to discuss are the financial accounting practices, which assist GFMD during their pre-award risk assessment review for all applications. Each applicant must prepare a response to all 11 questions, and each question has multiple parts. We've noticed from prior years that applicants do not always fully answer all parts of the questions, which in turn requires GFMD to reach out to the applicant, which may delay recommendations. Some of the most common issues that we've encountered have been question number 2, where the applicant indicates that they do indeed have internal policies, but then they don't provide a list of the topics covered in the policies and procedures. Another example of incomplete responses includes question number 3, where the applicant does not provide a brief summary of the organization's process for tracking expenditures, and more specifically, whether or not it tracks budgeted versus actual expenditures. So these are just a couple examples, but basically, please make sure you read each piece of each question and provide a full and comprehensive response. On this slide, we quickly highlight some resources that are available that should be used as you're creating the budget to be submitted with the application. Over the last year, GFMD has worked to develop a detailed webinar on how to assist applicants in developing a budget to be submitted with your OVW application. They want to help reduce any challenges you may face with the budget and make it clear what they look for when they review your budget. This webinar provides some insight as to what OVW financial staff considers during their review. Use the link there to reach the webinar. It's under the budget information section of this page. Next up is the uniform guidance, which can be found at 2 CFR 200. Then another resource is the DOJ financial guide, as well as program-specific solicitation. If you need assistance finding these resources, please contact the GFMD help desk. We know this can be a lot of information to process. So if you have any questions about the GFMD information discussed, please feel free to contact the GFMD help desk at 888-514-8556 or by email at ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov. The Exercising SDVCJ certification is an eligibility document. Applications without this document will be removed from consideration for funding. The document should be in the form of a letter on tribal letterhead signed by the authorized representative. The letter must be current and certified to both of the elements under Exercising SDVCJ certification on pages 10 through 12 of the solicitation. On the OVW website, you can find the sample letter of non-supplanting and the confidentiality notice form to print and sign, as well as the sample format for the applicant disclosure of duplication in cost items. Both the disclosure of lobbying activities and the DOJ standard assurances are pre-populated forms within Just Grants. Please read this section of the solicitation carefully. The FY2021 application submission process is new and there are significant differences. To best prepare to be successful in submitting a proposal, it will be important to plan ahead, to not procrastinate until the last few days before the proposal is due. To review the training resources available on Just Grants, including viewing or participating in the application submission webinars, if available, and most significantly, reach out for assistance to the OVW Just Grants support desk early if you are experiencing issues. Applicants experiencing Just Grants technical issues should ensure that they are continuing to develop the proposal while they are working with OVW Just Grants support desk to address any issues. Applicants must follow the solicitation guidance regarding technical difficulties. Be sure to keep documentation that you did follow guidance. This will enable you to submit a full proposal by the deadline using an alternate method if necessary. OVW will take the necessary steps to ensure that applicants are able to submit their applications on time and will update our submission guidance as necessary and as the due date nears. Some steps, such as obtaining a Data Universal Number System or DUNS number, or registering with the System for Award Management, SAM, or grants.gov may take several days or even a couple of weeks to complete. There is no way to speed up these registration processes. Therefore, we recommend applicants confirm their registrations are current or begin the registration as soon as possible, but no later than the date suggested in the solicitation. Again, applications must be initiated in grants.gov no later than Friday, March 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And the full application must be submitted in Just Grants no later than Tuesday, March 30th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Applications submitted after that time will not be considered for funding. Submitting the application components at least 48 hours before each deadline will enable applicants to receive notice of a failed submission and provide an opportunity to correct the error before the application deadline. If you have programmatic questions after reviewing the solicitation in full, such as whether your entity is eligible to apply or if a particular activity is allowable under this program, contact ovw.tribalaffairs@usdoj.gov. If you have financial questions, contact the OVW Grants Financial Management Division by emailing ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov or call 888-514-8556. If you need technical assistance with grants.gov, please contact the grants.gov applicant support line by emailing support@grants.gov or by calling 800-518-4726. If you need technical assistance with Just Grants, please contact the OVW Just Grant Support Desk by emailing ovw.justgrantsupport@usdoj.gov or by calling 866-655-4482. This concludes the FY 2021 Tribal Jurisdiction Program Pre-Application Information Session for the targeted solicitation.